Hi guys, welcome to Deep Diver. Today we will deep dive into Golang and explore variable. Before moving further, let us create the files and folder where I will be doing the coding in this video. So this is my Golang course folder, and inside this I will create one new folder 3 underscore functions, and let us create a new file as well inside this folder. Let us name it functions.go. As we have seen, the first thing we need to provide is the package name. So let us give the package name, and here we are bound to give the package name as main because we want to execute this file directly. And whenever we have package name as main, we must have this main function. So this main function is the entry point of the program execution, and we have used this main function in all the previous coding examples. Now let us explore function in much more detail. Functions are one of the core building blocks of any Go program. Functions help you organize and reuse your code and make your program readable and modular. Let us see how we can declare a function in Golang. The syntax for declaring a variable in Golang is like this. First we use this keyword func, which is the short form of function. Then we give the function name. Let us say our function name is add. Then we give the input parameters inside this bracket. Let us say this add takes two integers as input parameters, so we can declare it like this: a int and b int. And finally we give the return type. Let us say it also returns an integer. So this completes our function declaration. Now let us add a statement here, which will be basically the addition of a and b. If you compare this function declaration in Golang to function declaration in other languages, this return type is coming at last instead of starting. So in other languages we generally declare the function like this: int add, int a, int b. But in Golang the return type is at last, whereas in other languages the return type is at starting. This Golang syntax has a better readability than the function declaration in other languages. Try reading this function declaration in Golang from left to right. You can easily read it. Function add, which takes a as an integer, b as integer and returns an integer. But reading this declaration from left to right, it will not be so straightforward and will have a poor readability compared to this Golang syntax. Now let us declare one more function. First we use the keyword func. Let us say this time the function name is sub, which will be used for subtraction. It can also take two input parameters and will return an integer. Here will return a minus b. Now let us call these functions from main, as main is our starting point of program execution. So let us call this function add with values 10 and 20, and we need to store the return value in some variable. Let us store the return value in a variable named result1 for this add function. And for subtraction, let us use this result2. We are getting compilation errors declared and not used. Let us try to print these values. Println result1 fmt.println result2. Now let us try to run this code. Let me go to my terminal. The current directory is Golang course. Let me change it to 3 underscore functions. Clear this and now run this code. Go run functions.go. So it prints the output like addition of these two numbers and the difference of these two numbers. So we have our output here. Now let us discuss a special feature available in Golang related to functions, which is generally not available in other languages. Suppose I want a function named divide, which will basically do the division operation and will return the quotient and the remainder. So this divide function will take two integers and input and will return two integer as output, which basically corresponds to quotient and remainder. In other languages, how you can do this? Either you create a structure or a class where you declare these two integer fields corresponding to quotient and remainder, and in this divide function you populate that structure or class with these two values, and then you can return from this divide function. Or you can use an array or a list and you can add this quotient and remainder to that array or that list, and you can return that array or list from that divide function. But in Golang you don't need to do those things, as Golang allows multiple values to be returned from a single function. Let us see how we can do that. Let us write the code for this divide function. The function name is divide, which takes two integers, and now inside this bracket you can return multiple values of any type. Here our requirement is we want to return two integer type values, so you can declare it like this, that this function divide will take two input parameters which are of type integers and also return two values which are of type int. So finally you can write your return statement as return a divided by b, which will give us the quotient, and a%b, which will give us the remainder. Now let us try to call this function from main. So here, as this function divide is returning two values, we need to declare two values here corresponding to those two, quotient and remainder, and then we can call this divide function. Let us say we give it 35 and 3, and then we can print this value, quotient and remainder. Now let me try to run it. So here you can see these first two lines 11 and 2 are corresponding to these two, quotient and remainder. So 35 divided by 3 gives quotient 11 and the remainder is 2. This is how you can return multiple values from a Golang function. Now in this example, as we have written the code and we can see this body of this divide function, we know that the first return value is corresponding to this quotient, and the second return value is corresponding to this remainder. But what if we are not allowed to see the body of the function and then we want to use this function? Then there will be problem, right? We cannot be sure which return value is corresponding to quotient and which return value is corresponding to remainder. So to solve this problem, Golang has this concept of named return value, where when you are returning values from a function, you can name your returning value as well. For example, here we are returning two values, so we can name these values as well. We can name this, the first one as quotient and the second one as remainder. And here inside this function we just have to assign the values to this function. Quotient is equal to a divide b, remainder is equal to a%b, and then we just need to have a return statement. If I save and run this code, you can see the same values 11 and 2 has been printed for these two lines. If you want, you can change this return statement like this also, but this is not recommended as it can lead to mistakes. It may happen that instead of this quotient, you can declare the remainder first, and instead of that remainder you are returning the quotient, which will give the wrong result, and this 11 2 will not be printed, but 211 will get printed. Let me run this code and show you to you. So you can see this 211 has been printed this time. So it is better we just have the return keyword and not anything else with that. Now let me discuss one small thing. Here we have our named return value as quotient and remainder. What if I comment this code? What do you think the values will be? So here if I run this code, go run functions.go, you can see this divide function has returned the 0 values corresponding to this quotient and remainder. Let me uncomment this, and now we can have our correct values. 11 and 2 again got printed. With this video has come to an end. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.